High observer Nexil's sensory tentacles rippled with amusement as the Scatheri observation vessel settled into high Earth orbit. Their cloaking field, powered by quantum manipulation far beyond human understanding, rendered them completely invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. "Begin preliminary analysis," Nexil commanded, their crystalline voice echoing through the ship's organic computing matrix. The observation team, chosen from the finest sinologists in the Galactic Federation, activated their scanning arrays. "Remarkable," muttered Chief Analyst Vexra, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with interest. "They've achieved spaceflight despite still using combustion technology. How quaint." The analyst's appendages moved gracefully across the living control interface, bringing up detailed scans of human military installations. The Scatheri had discovered thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, but humans presented an unusual case. Most species developed their technology in predictable patterns, achieving faster than light travel only after mastering gravity manipulation and quantum engineering. Humans, however, had reached for the stars while still relying on chemical rockets and digital computers. "I've located their primary military training facilities," announced Security Specialist Mirath, displaying a holographic map of Earth's service academies. "Shall we begin our assessment there?" Nexil's upper eye cluster focused on the display. "Proceed, though I doubt we'll find anything concerning. Their most advanced weapons still rely on chemical propellants and crude atomic fission." The observation team deployed their microprobes, quantum-linked surveillance devices no larger than dust particles. They settled into position above West Point Military Academy, expecting to find simple combat drills and basic weapons training. What they found instead made their crystalline exoskeletons vibrate with unease. In a classroom deep within the academy, Professor James Harrison, a gruff veteran with steel-gray hair and a prosthetic leg, was delivering a lecture on asymmetric warfare. The aliens expected a simple presentation on basic tactics. Instead, they watched in growing horror as he described how a vastly outnumbered force had repeatedly defeated superior enemies through innovation, adaptation, and sheer determination. "Remember," Harrison emphasized, pacing before a holographic display showing historical battles. "Throughout history, humans have consistently proven that technological superiority doesn't guarantee victory. The victory goes to those who adapt fastest, think most creatively, and refuse to accept defeat." The alien observers exchanged troubled glances through their compound eyes. This wasn't the primitive military instruction they had expected. These humans weren't just teaching combat, they were teaching innovation under pressure, adaptability in impossible situations, and most disturbingly, how to defeat theoretically superior forces. "Observe their historical records," Vexra transmitted nervously, bringing up archives of human conflicts. "They've developed most of their significant military innovations while under extreme pressure, often when facing imminent defeat." The team watched in stunned silence as Harrison pulled up case studies of human ingenuity in warfare, stories of desperate innovations that changed the course of battles, of soldiers turning everyday objects into weapons, of armies adapting enemy technology and improving upon it mid-conflict. "Most concerning," Mirath transmitted, their defensive spines bristling, "is their apparent ability to rapidly reverse engineer and improve upon any technology they encounter. They don't just copy, they innovate." Nexil's command tentacles coiled tightly as they processed this information. Their initial assessment had been dangerously wrong. These humans weren't primitive at all. They were something far more dangerous, unpredictable innovators who seemed to thrive on overcoming impossible odds. The High Observer was about to order a deeper analysis when Professor Harrison's next words sent a wave of panic through the alien observation team. "And that, cadets, is why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to take whatever we have, no matter how primitive it might seem, and find ways to make it work. Remember, throughout history, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the best weapons, but the one who can turn anything into a weapon. Nexil's bioluminescence flickered rapidly, the Scatheri equivalent of a cold sweat. They had come to evaluate a primitive species, only to find something far more challenging. A civilization that didn't follow the normal rules of technological development, that seemed to thrive on impossible challenges, and most worryingly, that had built its entire military doctrine around defeating superior forces. Update threat assessment. Nexil transmitted to the Central Command. Humans. Extremely dangerous. Recommend immediate reevaluation of contact protocols. As the sun set over West Point, the alien observers continued their surveillance, their initial amusement replaced by growing respect, and more than a little fear. They had come expecting to find primitives playing at warfare. Instead, they had found something far more interesting and far more dangerous. The Scatheri observation team shifted their focus to London, where the imposing structure of the Imperial War Museum stood against the gray English sky. After their disturbing discoveries at West Point, High Observer Nexil had ordered a comprehensive analysis of human military history. The museum, with its vast archives and exhibits, seemed the perfect place to begin. Fascinating primitive architecture. Vexra transmitted, their scanning tendrils wavering over the building's facade. They preserved their military history in physical form, rather than quantum archives. The team deployed their nanoprobes throughout the building, gathering data from every exhibit, document, and artifact. What they found sent waves of distress through their collective neural network. Dr. Eleanor Wright, the museum's lead curator, was guiding a group of international military historians through a new exhibit on rapid technological advancement in warfare. The aliens listened intently as she spoke, their translation matrices working overtime to process the implications of her words. The most remarkable aspect of human military development, Dr. Wright explained, gesturing to a timeline display, isn't just the innovations themselves, but the speed at which they occurred. In 1903, we achieved powered flight. By 1945, we had jets and atomic weapons. By 1969, we were on the moon. Security specialist Mireth's defensive spines began vibrating at an alarming frequency. High Observer, this rate of technological advancement violates all known models of civilizational development. It's impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. The museum's archives told a story that sent shivers through the aliens' crystalline forms, a story of a species that didn't just develop technology, but did so in great desperate leaps. Consider World War II. Dr. Wright continued, moving to a display of radar equipment. When the war began, radar was in its infancy. By war's end, we had not only perfected it but developed countermeasures, countermeasures, and entirely new applications no one had imagined before. The alien observers watched as she moved through the exhibits, each one revealing another aspect of humanity's terrifying capacity for rapid adaptation. The development of tanks from slow, unwieldy machines to swift, devastating weapons. The evolution of aircraft from fabric-covered biplanes to supersonic jets. The leap from simple code breaking to the birth of electronic computers. Most concerning, Vexra transmitted, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety, is their pattern of acceleration under pressure. The humans don't just adapt. They seem to thrive on existential threats. The team's attention was drawn to a special exhibit on the Cold War. Dr. Wright was explaining how the mere threat of conflict had driven both sides to unprecedented technological achievements. In less than 3 decades, she noted, humanity went from primitive atomic weapons to thermonuclear devices, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and sophisticated early warning systems. We developed computers, satellites, and the internet, all driven by military necessity. Nexil's command tentacles coiled in distress. Their entire history is a series of technological quantum leaps, each triggered by conflict or the threat of it. What might they achieve if truly challenged by an external threat? The implications were clear and disturbing. The Scytheri had initially dismissed human technology as primitive because it didn't follow the expected pattern of steady, methodical advancement. Now they realized their error. Humans didn't advance steadily. They advanced explosively, driven by necessity and competition. As Dr. Wright led her group to the modern warfare section, she made an observation that chilled the alien observers to their core. What's truly remarkable is that we consider these advancements history. They're already outdated. Today's military technology, much of which remains classified, makes World War II look like the Stone Age, and that development happened in less than a century. Mirith's defensive systems were now in full alert mode. High Observer, I must point out a disturbing pattern. These humans, they don't just learn from their conflicts, they actively build upon them. Each war teaches them new lessons, which they then apply and improve upon. They're not just preserving their military history, they're using it as a foundation for future innovations. The Scytheri observation team relocated to a remote military training facility in the Nevada desert. After their disturbing discoveries about humanity's historical achievements, High Observer Nexil had ordered an analysis of current human military capabilities and training methods. Most peculiar, Vexra transmitted, their analysis tendrils weaving complex patterns in the air. They deliberately practice warfare under suboptimal conditions. Below them, a group of Special Forces operators were conducting exercises in the pre-dawn darkness. Captain Michael Torres, the unit's commanding officer, watched as his team adapted to increasingly challenging scenarios thrown at them by their instructors. Again, Torres commanded, his voice firm but encouraging. And this time, assume you have no radio communication, no night vision, and your primary weapons are disabled. The alien observer's sensory apparatus vibrated with confusion. They intentionally handicapped themselves during training. Mirith transmitted incredulously. This defies all logical combat preparation protocols. But as they watched, the human soldiers adapted with remarkable speed. Using only basic tools and hand signals, the team completed their objective, finding creative solutions to each artificial limitation placed upon them. Excellent improvisation, Johnson. Torres called out to a soldier who had created an impromptu signal mirror from a broken piece of equipment. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Nexil's command tentacles writhed with growing unease. They're not just training for combat. They transmitted. They're training for system failure, for worst-case scenarios. They're practicing how to function when everything goes wrong. The team observed as the exercise scenarios grew increasingly complex. The humans were forced to deal with equipment failures, changing objectives, unexpected obstacles, and even simulated betrayals. Each new challenge was met with remarkable adaptability. Notice their psychological responses. Vexra noted their scanning tendrils detecting subtle changes in human brain activity. They're not showing expected stress patterns. They appear to be enjoying the challenge. In a nearby classroom, the team observed a debriefing session. Major Lisa Chen, the unit's tactical instructor, was reviewing the morning's performance. Remember, she emphasized, her laser pointer highlighting key moments captured on video. Technology can fail. Plans can go wrong. But the human ability to adapt and overcome, that's something we can always rely on. The aliens watched as she played back footage of various military exercises from around the world. Russian soldiers continuing their mission after their vehicles broke down in the Arctic. British Royal Marines improvising repairs to their equipment in the jungle. Chinese special forces completing objectives with deliberately sabotaged weapons. Most concerning, Mirith transmitted, their defensive spines fully extended, is their emphasis on what they call thinking outside the box. They actively encourage breaking standard protocols if it achieves the objective. The team monitored multiple training sessions throughout the day, each revealing new aspects of human military philosophy. They didn't just train their soldiers to follow orders, they trained them to think independently, to improvise, to question and improve upon established tactics. This explains much about their historical pattern of warfare, Nexil observed. Their technological advancement isn't their primary advantage. It's their ability to adapt and overcome with whatever resources are available. As evening approached, they observed the final exercise. This time, the soldiers were given a seemingly impossible scenario: complete their mission with no weapons at all, using only what they could find in their environment. "Begin," Torres commanded, and the team watched in amazement as the soldiers immediately began transforming ordinary objects into tools and weapons. A belt became a rappelling harness, a bootlace and branch became a snare, a canteen and some chemicals from a first aid kit became a diversionary device. Update threat assessment. Nexil transmitted, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. Previous evaluations focused too heavily on human technology. Their true military advantage appears to be their psychological and adaptive capabilities. The observation team watched as the soldiers completed their mission using nothing but improvised tools and clever tactics. These humans weren't just soldiers. They were innovators, problem solvers, and most worryingly, they seemed to thrive on overcoming impossible odds. High Observer. Vexer transmitted hesitantly, "I believe we may have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of human military power. It's not their weapons we should be concerned about. It's their minds." The Scuderi observation vessel's sensors detected the solar anomaly first, a massive coronal mass ejection, far larger than anything in Earth's recorded history, was heading directly for the planet. High Observer Nexil's command center erupted with activity as they calculated the potential impact. "This event will devastate their civilization," Muraf transmitted, defensive spines crackling with electromagnetic energy. "Their primitive shielding technology cannot possibly withstand an impact of this magnitude." The aliens watched, expecting panic as Earth's scientific instruments detected the incoming solar storm. Instead, what they witnessed left them astounded. Within hours, NASA's Emergency Response Coordinator, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, was addressing a global conference call, his holographic image projected to scientific institutions worldwide. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have approximately 72 hours before impact," he announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I know it's not much time, but I've seen humanity achieve the impossible with less. Let's get to work." The alien observers watched in amazement as humans across the planet mobilized with unprecedented speed and coordination. Their primitive communication networks hummed with activity as scientists, engineers, and military personnel worldwide began implementing what they called Operation Solar Shield. "Remarkable," Vexer transmitted, monitoring multiple human facilities simultaneously. "They're not just accepting their technological limitations, they're finding ways around them." In China, engineers were repurposing satellite arrays to create a makeshift electromagnetic deflection system. In Russia, military installations were converting their missile defense systems into atmospheric stabilizers. European space agencies were rapidly repositioning their satellites to create a coordinated detection network. "Their solution is unorthodox," Nexil observed, their sensory tentacles writhing with a mixture of disbelief and grudging admiration. "They're combining multiple inferior technologies to achieve what a single advanced system should do." At NASA's Control Center, Dr. Rodriguez was coordinating with Colonel Diana Martins of the U.S. Space Force. "The military's particle beam research program," he asked urgently. "Officially, it doesn't exist," Martins replied with a slight smile. "Unofficially, we can have 3 prototype stations operational in 48 hours. They're not tested for this kind of application. But we'll make them work," Rodriguez finished. "We have to." The alien observers watched as humans around the world demonstrated exactly what had made them so dangerous throughout their history: the ability to repurpose, adapt, and combine technologies in ways their creators had never intended. They're modifying weather control systems to strengthen their magnetic field, Mirath reported, their defensive spines vibrating with incredulity. "The technology is crude, but the application is innovative." In India, Technicians were converting power plant infrastructure into massive electromagnetic pulse generators. Brazilian scientists were repurposing deep space communication arrays to create a planetary early warning system. African nations were offering their quantum computing facilities to process the massive amounts of data needed for atmospheric calculations. This is why they practice warfare under adverse conditions. Vexra transmitted, their analysis finally clicking into place. They assume everything can fail, so they learn to make anything work. As the hours counted down, the aliens watched humanity's desperate plan take shape. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't advanced. But it was quintessentially human. A combination of different technologies, jerry-rigged together, repurposed, and reimagined to serve a function their creators had never envisioned. 30 minutes to impact, Rodriguez announced, his voice echoing through command centers worldwide. All systems are in place. They're not pretty, but they'll have to do. The Sci-Fi observation team watched in tense silence as the coronal mass ejection struck Earth's hastily assembled defenses. The planet's magnetic field, strengthened by thousands of repurposed devices working in concert, flared brilliantly. Makeshift particle beam arrays fired in precise sequence, breaking up the most dangerous portions of the solar storm. Atmospheric stabilizers, converted from military hardware, maintained the integrity of Earth's protective layers. Impossible. MIRAF transmitted, their defensive systems unable to process what they were witnessing. They succeeded using technology that should have been completely inadequate. No, Nexil corrected, their command tentacles trembling with the weight of realization. They succeeded because they refused to accept that their technology was inadequate. This is what makes them truly dangerous. They don't recognize technological limitations as absolute. To them, everything is adaptable, everything can be repurposed, and nothing is impossible. The Sci-Fi High Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as High Observer Nexil presented their final report on humanity. The crystalline walls reflected the bioluminescent patterns of hundreds of council members, their colors shifting with anxiety as they processed the information. Esteemed council, Nexil began, their command tentacles moving in formal patterns. I stand before you to recommend an unprecedented course of action regarding the species known as humans. The observation team's collected data flowed through the chamber's neural network, allowing every council member to experience their discoveries firsthand. The scenes played out in crystalline clarity. The military academy lectures, the museum archives, the training exercises, and finally, humanity's impossible victory over the solar storm. We came to Earth expecting to find primitives. Nexil continued, their voice resonating through the quantum-linked chamber. Instead, we found something far more significant and far more dangerous. Supreme Counselor Zixu's form pulsed with skepticism. They are centuries behind us technologically. Their weapons are crude. Their computers are binary. They still burn fossil fuels. How can they possibly represent a significant factor in galactic politics? Vexra stepped forward, their analysis tendrils weaving complex patterns that display humanity's technological progression. Honored Council, you're asking the wrong questions. The humans' current technology level is irrelevant. What matters is their rate of advancement, and more importantly, their method of advancement. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing humanity's history of innovation under pressure. The Wright brothers' first flight to the moon landing in 66 years. The development of computers from room-sized calculators to quantum processors in less than a century. The evolution of warfare from trenches to cyber battlefields in mere decades. But most crucially, Miraf added, their defensive spines glowing with emphasis, is their psychological profile. Humans don't just adapt to challenges, they thrive on them. They don't just overcome obstacles, they learn from them. Every failure makes them stronger. Every setback teaches them something new. The council chamber rippled with uneasy colors as Nexil displayed footage from the solar storm crisis. Observe how they handled an extinction-level threat. They didn't panic. They didn't surrender. Instead, they did something that our scientists had deemed impossible. They successfully repurposed inferior technology to achieve superior results. They should have failed, one council member transmitted. Their technology was inadequate. And that, Nexil responded, is precisely why they are so dangerous. Humans don't accept failure as inevitable. They don't recognize technological limitations as absolute. When faced with impossible odds, they don't submit to them. They find ways to change the rules of engagement entirely. The High Council watched in stunned silence as the observation team presented their final analysis. Humans were not just another emerging species. They were an anomaly, a civilization that had developed in ways that defied all known models of progression. Therefore, Nexil concluded, their form pulsing with the gravity of their words, I recommend that we extend an immediate invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Federation, not because they are ready, but because we cannot afford to wait until they are. Confused murmurs rippled through the quantum field. Supreme Counselor Zixia's form flickered with uncertainty. Explain your reasoning, observer. Because, honored Council, if we wait until they reach our current level of technology, it will be too late. They will have surpassed us. Nexil's sensory tentacles pulsed with conviction. Their strength lies not in their current capabilities, but in their potential, and in their unprecedented ability to realize that potential under pressure. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The holographic displays showed scenes from human history, their wars, their disasters, their near extinctions. But more importantly, they showed humanity's responses to these challenges, their innovations, their adaptations, their absolute refusal to accept defeat.